Now,
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:07 on this Friday as we keep plowing ahead to get you to this weekend. And then on Monday, the Iowa caucus. At 7:05, we'll speak with the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Winsome Sears, as the legislative session is now beginning, and she's going to have her hands full. 8:05, Attorney General of Virginia, Jason Miyares. And then at 8:35, Brett Baer of Fox News Channel. But that's a good lineup. And, of course, it's always a great lineup when we start things off with Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning and happy Friday.
Amen to that. So earlier this week, as we saw that scene in Brooklyn where children were displaced from their school, James Madison High School, they all had to stay home from school while the entire building was filled with illegal immigrants. The city of New York decided to put them all in there, thus forcing children to do their school from home. We were sort of fleshing that story out and explaining how the Democrats, you may hear from Mayor Adams about how he's upset about the situation, but all you hear from him is no resolution and stopping it. All he wants is more money, right? And then the greatest revelation came from a Brooklyn Congresswoman, Yvette Clarke. This is cut 6, please, Michael.
From Brooklyn, New York, we have a diaspora that can absorb a significant number of these migrants. And when I hear colleagues talk about, the doors of the inn being closed, no room in the inn, I'm saying, I need more people in my district, but just for redistricting purposes. And those members could clearly fit here.
Just for redistricting purposes.
I.e. votes.
Yeah.
Votes.
Federal funds allocated, services allocated. And if there's enough of them, you redistrict because there's so many to represent. So you get another Democrat congressman from Brooklyn. So that's all about power and it's all about money. And in a moment, you're going to hear another New York Democrat, Jerry Nadler, going all in on this yesterday. But quickly before we get to that, a lot of people point to the sentence in the Constitution that points out the enslaved Americans from Africa at that time of our founding counted as 1/6 of a human being. That's raised a lot. You only considered us 1/6 of a person. I want to be clear. That was included in the Constitution, basically echoing exactly what Yvette Clarke, Democrat of New York, said. The people who were against slavery at the time in the debates that were going on, the push was actually in the compromise that was made there on the 1/6 thing had to do with representation in Congress.
Right. Yep.
It had to do with how you count the people who were there. So again, this is the mentality that politicians have when they look at a human being. What they see is, how does this affect my power? How does this affect money in the federal government? The 1/6 of a human thing wasn't, we only consider you 1/6. It had to do with how they are counted in the census for the House of Representatives. Do you see the connection there?
It's funny. She says the quiet part out loud, Yvette Clarke. She's actually an interesting person. I'll put it that, to be generous.
You are full of grace today.
I'm full of a lot of grace. I try to be. But it's so interesting because often the left says, the right is scared of immigrants coming to this country out of this replacement theory idea where people of color are going to replace white people one day. And so that's why they are opposed immigration. Incorrect and on so many counts. Number one, there's not opposition to immigration, but opposition to illegal immigration.
Thank you.
Number two, actually, it's the left that support this idea of displacement because going back years, the left has talked about the fact that within a certain number of decades, America will no longer be a majority white nation. It will be a majority minority nation.
Yeah.
And so they see the southern border as a way to fast track that. This displacement theory, when you think about it, they want to see brown and black faces being the majority under the idea that these are going to be Democratic voters. But hello, a lot of conservatives, a lot of blacks and Hispanics recognize, no, we don't want to be on that side of the aisle. We want to be independent.
Correct, and I agree. I think that it's the Democrats who you're right constantly say that whites will be the minority soon. It's like I honestly don't care what the racial makeup of our country is. I care about the people's values and principles. I look at and the fact of the matter is that more Latino voters and Black voters are figuring that out as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have a broad-based racial coalition of people who are thinking for themselves and actually voting based on our original founding.
But doing so as legal immigrants.
Of course,
legal
legally.
people here.
Well, here's Representative Jerry Nadler. He's the ranking member, used to be the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, which last I checked was supposed to be about law and order. Here he is also saying the quiet part out loud about how it's critical that we have illegal immigrants in this country.
Forget the fact that the farm, that our vegetables would rot in the ground if they weren't being picked by many immigrants, many illegal immigrants. The fact is that the birth rate in this country is way below replacement level, which means our population is going to start shrinking. And the ratio of people on Social Security and Medicare is going to increase relative to the number of people supporting them.
Now, by the way, that last part is a demographic fact. So as
immigration does support our birth rate right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, because Jerry Nadler and his party, these boomers have decided to create this welfare state with Social Security and Medicare for all. It's like, well, who's going to pay for it? Mm-hmm. Well, we got to import people into the country. So again, looking at these individuals, number one, as merely people to provide more income to finance their out-of-control socialist systems. Mm-hmm. But the first part, again, really needs to be pointed out. This is the very beginning here. Listen.
Vegetables would rot in the ground if they weren't being picked by many immigrants, many illegal immigrants.
We need people to pick these vegetables. But, I just mentioned the Constitution and slavery. Let's go back 160 years right now and listen to a Democrat in the House of Representatives arguing about how they can't do away with slavery because who's going to pick all this cotton? Who's going to do all this work on the plantations? I mean, they were Democrats then, and they're Democrats now. And this is how they view human beings, to do the dirty work that they don't want to do.
Congratulations, Larry. You found systemic racism alive and well in Congress.
You're right. Don't thank me. Thank Jerry Nadler and his Democrat Party.
You called it out. It's so interesting because H.R. 2, which is the House-passed Republican immigration bill that would tighten the border, that would tighten asylum requirements so that everybody can't claim asylum and get in, also has E-Verify, which is a vetting process that employers would be required to vet the immigration status of people who are working for them. So no wonder Democrats didn't vote for H.R. 2, and no wonder the Senate does not want to take up the House-passed H.R. 2. Why? Because you want illegal immigrants to pick your fruit. You don't want them to. You don't want employers to verify who's picking their fruit, the immigration status of them.
That's right. And if I may, Jerry Nadler, that fat ass, doesn't want to spend 3 cents more for his bananas. Because, somebody, maybe a citizen picked it. I don't mean to name call, but he does have a very large posterior. That's where things stand now with your Democrats.
There
God bless them all. At least they're on the record. I do like it when they say the quiet part out loud. Mm-hmm. That way we can just play what they say, and we don't have to say it for them. It's 6:15, WMAL traffic and weather.
WMAL, making sense of world events. Because those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
We have an incredibly disturbing story out of Houston to share with you, and I want to emphasize it is disturbing. Not great to listen to, but it's important that you know that this is happening as we focus on the crime issue all across the country.
Yeah.
In Texas, it's even more acute, I think, because of the influx of illegal immigrants. And I'm not saying that the suspects in this case are necessarily illegal immigrants. What I'm saying is because of the influx of humanity into that state, it stretches the resources for law enforcement and every other social system thin.
Yeah.
And so that it is much, much harder in border states especially to deal with the basics of security and law enforcement and protection because you've also got millions of new people there that have to be taken care of. Don't believe me? Ask the mayor of Chicago, the mayor of New York. They're dealing with it on a much smaller scale. There has been arrest right now for one suspect in a horrific attack on 2 toddlers in the Houston Galleria Mall. The FBI has arrested Arthur Hector Fernandez III, and I want you to listen to a local news report about this assault.
Toddlers were allegedly sexually assaulted in a bathroom at the Galleria by multiple men. One of the men was a mall employee. Fox 26's Natalie He is joining us now live from the Galleria with the disturbing details. Natalie.
Well, Anthony, court documents reveal that there were up to 7 men involved in the sex assault. It apparently happened at one of the public bathrooms here at the Galleria Mall. And tonight, one local organization has an important message for parents.
The FBI has arrested Arthur Hector Fernandez III and charged the 29-year-old with sexual exploitation of children. Fernandez is pictured here on his private Instagram with the username allegedly Hector. His account was named in court documents that detailed the disturbing allegations that he and at least 6 other unidentified men sexually assaulted and raped a toddler at what appeared to be a Galleria Mall bathroom. Court documents say last month the Australian Centre to Counter Child Exploitation reported 4 explicit videos found on the dark web to the FBI in which at least 2 toddlers ages 2 and 3 were filmed being sexually and verbally assaulted by multiple men at once. Relatives of the toddlers told investigators Fernandez was a friend and fellow Galleria employee who offered to watch the kids while they were at work at the mall.
Absolutely nauseating and horrific. This story, obviously, it's incredibly disturbing, but it's also catching fire right now around the country as the despicable nature of this crime is just resonates with so many people who are concerned about their children in public spaces these days, especially as certain behaviors are forced into our culture as being normalized and celebrated. And it's just, I pray for where our country is right now because we are so broken in so many ways.
We are. One of the things that I took away from this story is that very typically the people who are going to sexually abuse your child is not a guy in a white van. It's not it's not somebody you don't know. It's actually somebody you know. And this is an employee who offered to watch these children while I guess his colleague was busy or doing something.
That's right.
So we have, even with the people we think we know, we have to be careful because they could be as bad predators as, the human trafficker, smuggling kids into this country, or the person, that we think is really the creepy guy in the trench coat. Frankly, that creepy guy in the trench coat these days has a rainbow color leotard underneath and now is celebrated and given a position in the Biden administration. But
sadly, you're ironically correct. And so again, 7 suspects, only 1 has been arrested, 6 are still at large, and there needs to be some very real law and order and justice in this case and every case that's similar to it. It's 6:21. Meanwhile, we've got our own crime problem here, of course, although this crime at the Tyson's Galleria is less horrific, but still indicative of the degradation of our society here. A man walked into the Saks Fifth Avenue at Tyson's Galleria.
Okay.
And walked out with about $1,000 worth of coats.
Oh, wow.
And got away in a Honda Accord. He struck a loss prevention officer with the car door while he was pulling off.
Oh, no.
But meanwhile, now this is one of the most DC stories you'll ever hear.
Okay.
This is Muriel Bowser, Phil Mendelssohn's District of Columbia. There was a black Nissan Altima carjacked out of a parking lot at Kohl's in Anne Arundel County. Okay, it's a little outside of D.C., but still, I still blame D.C. for this.
DMV.
Yes, thank you. So the black Nissan Altima was carjacked outside of the Kohl's in Anne Arundel County with the owner's handgun in the car. It was chased by Prince George's County Police Department. The occupants bailed on Cherrywood Lane at the Beltway in Greenbelt. 2 were in custody. But get this. The carjackers had been carjacked themselves.
What?
The occupants bailed out of a carjacked Lexus who were carjacked themselves by the occupants of the carjacked Nissan earlier today. The Lexus was initially spotted by police chasing the Nissan in Lanham, but it's unknown on the status of the Nissan. So in other words, the carjackers had earlier been carjacked and then was chasing in a carjacked car their carjackers.
Well, this sounds like a really good episode of SWAT to me. I mean, it's kind of the irony is rich here. So the bad guys are turning on themselves, which they always do in these shows. But
now, all that's going to be left on the road are carjackers. That's the only people
So everybody
left
just
driving.
stay in your house and let the carjackers take each other out. Is that what the police response is?
when we bring in Jamie from the Hadid Carpet Cladding Traffic Center, it's really like, all right, what are the carjackers doing now? Tell me how bad it is for the carjackers out there. We want to make sure their commute gets better.
But this is actually sad. This is not even. It shouldn't even be funny.
Yeah, well, but that's all you can do is laugh these days.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be the new motto of the show. O'Connor and Company. All you can do is laugh. It's 6:30.
WMAL FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:37. Thanks for tuning in here on a busy Friday morning. Coming up at 7:05, Virginia Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears. At 8:05, Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares. Boy, the Commonwealth is coming out in full force here.
I love
the
it.
AG and the LTG. Where's the G? Let's get the G on here. 8:35. Brett Baer, who is not quite the governor of Virginia, but he's sort of the governor of Fox News Channel Primetime. He'll be joining us at 8:35. I'm Larry O'Connor, the First Lady of Virginia. No, you're not even a Virginian. Patrice Onwuka is with us.
Happy Friday, Larry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I tried to connect it all, but
it's okay. Sometimes we miss, sometimes we hit.
So we talk about crime. We just had a couple of segments about horrific crime here in America, certainly here in our backyard. We've been focusing on the crime issue for years before it was cool here in Washington, D.C., as we saw the trends getting worse and worse, really starting in the summer of 2020 when the destructive defund the police movement began, undermining law enforcement. Who wants to be a cop with the conditions that we've got right now? It's bad. It's really bad. But it could be worse. Anytime we recognize how bad it is and we wonder, well, how worse can it get? Luckily, we've got Canada right above our northern border. Canada is a perfect, yes, well done. It's a perfect little sort of petri dish of North American socialism.
Yeah.
And we can see exactly where we're headed. Earlier in this week, we talked about the reporter who was arrested by the mounted police there.
That's right, yes.
And all he did was ask a question of the finance minister there. Brett Baer was talking about it yesterday on the program. They are undermining the rights of individual citizens on a daily basis in Canada, and it continues. And this report out of the Montreal police is the perfect example of what we're talking about. Canada, like America, Patrice, has an epidemic of people stealing packages from porches, from homes.
Porch thieves.
We, the deliveries, obviously Amazon Prime and other, online retailers have really increased the number of packages, valuable packages that get dropped off at people's houses.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, that was the way, during the lockdowns, it was the only way people could get anything.
That's right.
Was delivered through these services. Now that people are back at work, they're still getting deliveries and things are left on their porch. And that's where the thieves come in. They roll up, they take the package, and they leave. And a lot of people who have these cameras on
video surveillance at
their door, Ring cameras or what have you. What they're doing is they're posting the videos. Look at what happened in my home. Look at this person who stole this thing, my personal property, on my personal property. Right? You stole my product, you trespassed on my personal property, private property, and then you stole my goods. And they put the video out there. Look at what happened, and if you recognize this person, let me know. Well, the Canadian police are cracking down, Patrice.
On the porch thieves, right?
No. They're cracking down on the citizens who are putting the videos out. They have warned citizens that if they post surveillance footage of their packages being stolen, it could be a violation of the privacy of the thieves. You're violating their privacy by posting the videos of their thefts.
No, you know what? This is exactly what happens when you have a government that wants to cover up for their inability to solve crimes. People will post these crimes, not just to highlight that it's happening, but hey, maybe you've seen this person. Maybe you've seen them also in the neighborhood. It's a deterrent. It could be a way of fighting crime by individuals and citizens. But the government doesn't want you to do that because the government's not going to fight crime. The government's not pursuing these individuals, and so they wouldn't want you to either.
You can, I'm quoting the lieutenant of the police in Quebec. You cannot post the images yourself because you have to remember, in Canada, we have a presumption of innocence, and posting that picture could be a violation of private life. If you get some proof that somebody might have stolen something, call the police, give the proof to the police. We'll do the investigation and bring that person to justice and file some charges. Will you, though?
Well, exactly. Will you? What is your closure rate? What is the rate at which you are closing? You are recovering the lost merchandise. You are finding and prosecuting these individuals. I would think that the police usually want people to put out whenever something negative is happening to let it be known so that you can get as many tips as possible.
Articles 35 and 36 of the Civil Code of Quebec says every person has a right to the respect of his reputation and privacy, and that privacy of a person may not be invaded without the consent of the person or without the invasion being authorized by law. So apparently, when you trespass on somebody's private property and steal their private property or their goods from their homes, and you're caught on camera, you have a right to do that in private. You have the right to do that without your face or your identity being exposed.
Because obviously you don't want to be found, and the government doesn't want to find you either.
Yeah.
I mean, this is asinine, but frankly, it wouldn't surprise me if it gets imported to America.
100%. And by the way, one other aspect of this that is obvious but still needs to be pointed out: the fact that the police see this situation, see the fact that private citizens are being robbed. And their main focus, what they, go out of their way to create a video for and to announce to the public, is that the bad guy in this scenario is the homeowner, the victim, and the person that needs to be protected is the thief. This is how everything with regard to law and order in Western civilization feels like it's turned completely upside down right now. It is 6:43.
If there's just one additional angle, it's this idea of you could face potential defamation charges. So this idea that you could be sued, or maybe the police could be sued, or somebody, or government could be sued in some way. So I think there's that angle to it.
The threat here is of the private citizen. Make no mistake, they are threatening the victim with prosecution if they continue to put the videos out. That's who they're looking to go after. It's 6:43. We gave you a little taste of this yesterday because it was happening during our program. This was an exclusive interview that Mika Brzezinski somehow was able to land with the First Lady of the United States. It's hardly a hard-hitting interview.
It was all puppy love.
Mika was fantastic in this Love Fest. She was so good at reading the questions that the White House communications team wrote for her.
Oh, nice.
Here's a little bit of it, starting with cut 9.
Potentially another 4 years in the White House with everything you do here. Does yet another one give you any pause, thinking of like the personal health and well-being for both of you, the division in this country, the cruelty of MAGA Republicans against your family? Does any part of you once in a while think, maybe we bow out?
That's why I want to go through yet another campaign. Because I think, as Joe says, democracy, our freedoms are what's on the line. And so Americans have a choice. They can have strong, steady leadership, someone fighting for democracy, or they can choose chaos and division.
Chaos and division. But and so what we're experiencing right now under Joe Biden
steady hand.
Is strong, steady, and not chaos and division. Just it's like they don't understand the English language, Patrice.
Oh yeah, I mean it's hilarious. By the way, Mika's question: some hosts will do that. They just give you the answer they want you to give back to them, and that is exactly. I was like, where is the question again? You've already told us all the reasons why she should not want to be running for office, and or her husband shouldn't be running for office again. That was bad.
Well, listen to this one. This is before we play it though. This is cut 10. I want you to think about the 4 years of the Trump administration. What Joe Biden what Mika Brzezinski, what the media in this country, and the political left and the Democrats, and yes, never Trump Republicans, the things that they said, not just about him, but about MAGA Republicans, about voters, about conservatives, about Americans, about where we were in this country. The things they said about Trump in terms, I mean, how many times did they invoke the 25th Amendment? He was mentally incompetent. He was incapacitated. That his entire family was corrupt. That Don Jr. and the Kushners were all involved in foreign dealings and all these things, right? Oh, and the lies. Oh, there's no one has lied more than Donald Trump as a president. Remember all the things they said about Trump. And now listen to this.
What do you think when you hear Trump Republicans calling it the Biden crime family? Or I have one congresswoman, the Biden crime family sold out America, Marjorie Taylor Greene. He's a liar. He's mentally incompetent. And let's not even talk about what Let's Go Brandon means, but you have U.S. senators holding signs that say that.
It's hard to realize our country, isn't it? I mean, to look at it, what we used to have and what the other side, the extremists, have turned this country into. I mean, we would never see things like that, say, 10 years ago.
You would never see things like that.
Really?
By the way, 10 years ago, literally 10 years ago, Joe Biden was saying that Mitt Romney would put black people back in chains. So, it's hard to believe this is our country. This is exactly what you guys did for years and years and years.
Here's the sad part, though, Larry. The people who are watching MSNBC, they have no clue that what they're being fed is 100% just garbage and lies, because there's no alternative perspective, even from the husband of the host, Mika Brzezinski, who's also the host. He's supposed to be the resident Republican.
A Republican, yeah.
I'm going to put Republican in quotation marks. And even he provides no pushback, but co-signs every single thing that's said. So, you know what? If you're listening to MSNBC, God bless you, but you are totally missing the boat, and you're just being fed a glass of Kool-Aid. Good luck with the diabetes that you're going to get as a result.
Patrice, well, that's the best scenario when you're drinking the Kool-Aid from cult members like this. But calling a fascist isn't wrong, because they're so sure that Republicans truly are fascists.